Hi, math students. In this video, we are going to solve proportions. Let's remind ourselves what a proportion is. A proportion is an equation stating that two ratios or rates are equivalent. And we know that equivalent means equal. We're going to practice using cross multiplication. We know that the answer to multiplication is called a product. So when we use cross multiplication, the answers we get are cross products. And cross products of any proportion are always equal. All right, let's look at this problem, 6/8 equals 3/4, to help us prove why cross multiplication works. The first thing we do is we multiply 6 times 4, and that equals 24. And now we're going to compare it to the other cross products. 8 times 3. 8 times 3 also equals 24. 24 is equal to 24. Now, cross multiplication is really helpful when there is a number that we don't know and we have to solve for x. Let's use cross multiplication to find out what number x equals. The first step we do is multiply 1.5 times 4. And that's going to be equal to the cross products of x times 12. So 1.5 times 4 is equal to x times 12. Now we multiply. 1.5 times 4 equals 6. Equals x times 12. We typically write the number first, so we're going to write that 12x. 12 times x. In order to isolate that variable, we're going to do the opposite or the inverse of multiplication, and that is to divide. We divide on the both sides of the equal sign to keep it equal. 6/12 is the same as 1/2. Simplified. And 12x divided by 12 equals x. And we can even cross off the 12s to cancel them. Our answer is 1/2 equals x. Let's practice together. We're going to solve 3 proportions and we're going to use cross multiplication. Let's look at number 1. 2/5 equals x out of 25. Using cross multiplication, our first step is to multiply 2 times 25, and we write that down, and we're going to find the cross product of 2 times 25. Now that is equal to the other cross product, which is 5 times x, and we write that down. Now for the product. 2 times 25 has a product of 50. 5 times x, we can simplify that and just write 5x. Now we're going to divide by 5, and we're going to divide by 5. 50 divided by 5, remember that a fraction is a division problem, so we can divide 50 divided by 5, that equals 10. And then right here we have 5x divided by 5. Well, 5 divided by 5 is 1, so we are left with 1x. Our answer is 10 equals x. Let's practice with number 2. 3 out of x equals 4 out of 12. With cross multiplication, we're going to begin by finding the cross product of 3 times 12. We write that down, and that is equal to the other cross product of x times 4. Now we're going to multiply. We write down our products. 3 times 12 equals 36. X times 4, we usually write the number first, and we can just write 4x. Now we divide. We're going to divide by 4, and we're going to divide by 4. Remember that it's a proportion, and it's equal, and that's why we have to do the division on both sides of the equal sign. Keep it equal. 36 divided by 4 equals 9. 4x divided by 4. Divide the numbers. 4 divided by 4 equals 1. So we have 1x. Our answer is 9 equals x. Let's try the last problem. Cross multiplication. 2 5/10 times x, and we write it down. And that is equal to these cross products, 4 times 3. 2.5 times x, we can simplify and write 2.5x equals 4 times 3 is 12. Now we're going to divide by 2.5 and divide by 2.5. 2.5 divided by 2.5 equals x. But over here we have a little bit of division to do. So we can set up our long division. 12 divided by 2.5. And I'm going to put a decimal point over here. And we're going to get rid of our decimal and move our decimal point over and put that straight up in the quotient. All right, if we multiply 25 times 4, that equals 100. And we subtract our difference is 20. Give ourselves a 0 in that next place value and drop it down, and we have 200. If we have 8 groups of 25, that equals exactly 200. So our repeating decimal is 0. This is called a terminating decimal, and that's our answer, 4 8/10. We're ready for a you try it. So go ahead and solve the addition and the subtraction problem. Pause the video, and when you're ready, press play and we'll compare answers. Remember, when you're adding and subtracting with like fractions, it doesn't matter what the numerator is, as long as the denominators are the same. 5 plus 4 are the numerators that you're adding. It might even help to write your fraction like this, to remind yourself that you're only adding the numerators. Our answer is 9/10. Same with subtraction. We're subtracting only the numerators. 11 take away 4 equals 7. Same denominator, 12. Answer, 7/12. Now it's your turn to try it. Solve each proportion. Use cross multiplication to solve for x. When you're ready, press play, and we'll go through the problems together. All right, I wrote each step in a different color. So we cross multiply, and we write 2 times x equals, the other cross products are 3 times 6. When we multiply, we get 2x equals 18. Our last step is division. Divide by 2 on both sides. 18 divided by 2 equals 9. Our answer is x equals 9. Cross multiplication works the same for this problem. X times 39 is equal to 13 times 18. Write down your products. 39x equals 234. Our last step is to divide by 39 on both sides. 234 divided by 39, and you can see my work down here, equals 6. So x equals 6. Knowing how to set up a proportion and solving with cross multiplication is really helpful when we have word problems to solve. Let's practice this problem together. Mia and her friends went to Quick Trip to buy fruit smoothies. They cost 2 for $5. How much will it cost for 6 smoothies? The important information is that 2 smoothies cost $5. So we can write that information in the I know box. The next is I need to know. Reread the question and write down what you're trying to solve. The question asks, how much will it cost for 6 smoothies? We want to know the cost for 6 smoothies. Now that we have our information written down, we can move to organize and work. We're going to write a proportion. Now we know that a proportion is 2 equivalent ratios. What's really important when you write your ratios is that you are comparing like units. We're comparing smoothies, and I'll just write an S to abbreviate, to the cost. I'll put a $sign. So smoothies is going to be written as our numerator, and the cost will be written as our denominator. Now we can write our proportion. 2 smoothies cost $5. That is equivalent to 6 smoothies that cost an amount that we don't know, and we're solving for x. 2/5 equals 6x. Now we're going to use cross multiplication. We begin by multiplying 2 times x, and then we multiply 5 times 6. 2 times x we can simplify and write 2x equals 5 times 6 is 30. Our last step is to divide by 2 and divide by 2. 2 divided by 2 equals 1x. And that equals 30 divided by 2, which is 15. So we know that it's going to cost $15 for 6 smoothies. That's our solution. We also want to check our solution, and we can do that by rewriting our proportion. 2/5 equals 6, and we've got our answer 15. Use cross multiplication again. 2 times 15 equals 30, and that is equivalent to 5 times 6, also 30. It's proportional. We have 2 ratios that are equivalent. Your turn to try it. Read through the problem, find the important information, write down what you're trying to solve, and then set up a proportion. Use cross multiplication to find your solution. I want you to pause the video now, and then when you're ready, press play, and we'll go through the problem together. A lemonade recipe requires a mix of powder and water. The ratio of powder to water is 1.5 cups to 6 cups. That's the important information that we know. 1.5 cups of powder for every 6 cups of water. Now, what are we trying to solve for? Our question asks how much water is needed with 9 cups of powder. So we want to know how much water is needed if we have 9 cups of powder. Now we're ready to organize and set up our proportion. We know that a proportion is 2 equivalent ratios. What's really important is that you're comparing like units. We're going to compare powder to water, and so that is equivalent to powder to water. Now that we know that, we can fill in with the numbers that we have. We know that there's 1.5 cups of powder to 6 cups of water. And that is equal to 9 cups of powder to, we don't know how much water, and we're solving for x. We have 1.5 to 6 is equivalent to 9x. Now we can use our cross multiplication. 1.5 times x is equal to 6 times 9. Next, we multiply. 1.5 times x we can simplify and write 1.5x equals 6 times 9, 54. Our last step is to divide by 1.5 and divide by 1.5. 1.5 divided by 1.5 equals 1x. 54 divided by 1.5. We're going to move our decimal points over and put it right up in our answer. We can have 3 groups of 15, and that gives us 45. Our difference is 9. drop the 0, 90. 6 groups of 15 equals exactly 90. And we have a repeating decimal of 0. So this is a terminating number, 36. Our solution is 36, and let's remember to label it cups of, what is it again? How much water? So, with 9 cups of powder, our recipe is going to require 36 cups of water. All right, one last important step. Let's rewrite our original proportion. 1.5, 6 equals 9, and now we can fill in our answer of 36. If we cross multiply, 36 times 1.5 equals 54. And then we cross multiply again, 6 times 9 equals 54. It is proportional. We have equivalent ratios. Move over, math humor. We're going to use a calculator.